hey there, Slingers. Welcome back to another Wordslinger podcast. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. I'm back from New Orleans. We're going to talk a little bit about that and some other things too, so stick around.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tumlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Welcome to the Wordslinger podcast. I'm Kevin Tumlinson, your humble host. This is going to be another solo Slinger episode, by the way. I'm kind of enjoying doing these. I'm kind of enjoying just having these little, I don't know, we'll call them like a fireside chat with just me and you. I'm kind of enjoying these, and apparently you're enjoying them too. I get people who respond to these quite a bit. Tell me what you think of these things. What do you think of the show in general? I love getting some feedback on episodes and the topics I cover, and I'm trying to cover things that are a little outside of what you would normally get on a podcast aimed at the creative world. Writers, we have a ton of podcasts to turn to. I've done like half a dozen podcasts over the past 3 days. Done some webinars and things, and you end up having a lot of the same conversations over and over again. A lot of the same people show up on all these different writing podcasts. That's why I've always kind of made an effort to try to bring in people who are outside of my industry that I can learn from, talking about topics I'm interested in. I may do more of those kind of things in the future, maybe the near future. Bring on some folks who can just talk about, topics of interest rather than simply talking about things like, book marketing and, craft and book sales and things like that. Tend to talk about that stuff a lot. Not that that's a bad thing. I enjoy talking about that. I love helping authors kind of figure this stuff out, especially these days. The conference, I was at the Writer MBA conference in New Orleans, put on by Monica Leonel and Russell Nolte. That was a really great conference, I have to say. There's a couple hundred people there. Everyone there was already sort of successful in their writing career. They were all sharing wisdom. We had a lot of great speakers. I was proud to be one of the speakers. I was there representing Author Anchor, which I talked about last time, not last week, because I didn't do an episode last week, because I was in New Orleans. But I was talking about Author Anchor, which, I was brought on board by the guys from BookBrush to represent Author Anchor, which is a resource for connecting writers with affordable, trained VAs to help take on the business side and the marketing side and all the other things that can distract you from writing. So was glad to give that talk. Just gave that talk again yesterday on a webinar. So you can probably find that. There is an Author Anchor YouTube channel kind of being born as we speak. So that's going to be available there. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the show notes. But anyway, all that said, it was interesting to meet up with a lot of people who are already successful in the business. It's a little bit like going to NINC each year. That conference definitely has kind of there's a high caliber of people attending that one. Same with this one. It's interesting to talk to people who are further along in their career. Most of the time when I'm chatting with authors at a conference, they're new. They're coming in, they want to know some of the particulars of, say, marketing in particular is usually the thing people want to talk about the most. How do I get more book sales? I understand that. I understand that as an impulse. I have that same impulse. I actually said several times during the conference and during the webinar and everything that the great irony of my life is that I'm known as a marketing guy, but I actually somewhat hate marketing. There's aspects of marketing that can be a lot of fun, but the deal is it takes me away from the thing I started this whole business for. I didn't get it. I was already doing marketing work. That's what my career was for much of my career. I didn't necessarily want to have to continue that. The whole point of becoming an author was eventually to do that work and that work alone. That's what I want. That's what I'm aiming for. It's interesting to talk to people because there's a kind of attitude out there that's an unrealistic expectation. You're constantly being told you need to temper your expectations on being an author, being a writer, because it's so rare for you to be full-time and successful at it. What other career could you possibly go into? I mean, the arts are the only sort of career line I can think of where you're told that don't stress too much about it because no matter how hard you work, you're only going to get so far. I mean, what other career? If you became a doctor, you can aspire to and achieve excellence in your field. You know, you can be a medical marvel. If you became a politician, you can rise in ranks all the way to the Oval Office here in the U.S., or maybe you become a prime minister wherever you are in the world, or something along those lines. You can hit that pinnacle, right? There's something to aim for. There's something that people see as the ultimate achievement in a field. And they don't ever tell you, look, I know that you're going into politics and you're in office, but, don't get your hopes too high. Don't work too hard because, the odds of you climbing that ladder are very slim. Man, the truth is, every career is like that, right? The odds of you achieving sort of pinnacle success are they're kind of stacked against you, and that's why it's a pinnacle. That's why that success is such an achievement. But you don't get the discouragement from people in different industries the way you do in a creative industry. Writers get told this stuff all the time. So I don't accept that. I don't think you should accept that either. As a creative, as an entrepreneur, don't accept the limits. And now, I did hear some wise advice, and it was around numbers. Because there was a conversation we had at dinner one night, and there was an ask, basically. Like, what is it? This was not asked of me. This was asked of someone else at the table. But, what would it take if you could put a number on it? What amount of currency would you need in your control? What amount of money would you need in your bank account in order for you to accomplish the thing that you're dreaming of accomplishing? And the number that was thrown out was $10 million. If I had $10 million, I feel like I could do whatever it is I need to do. And I thought to myself at the time, well, that's interesting because my number was always 20 million and it's recently become 30 million. But the wisdom came right afterward. And it was effectively this: if your success depends on you having that amount of money, any amount of money, even if it's $100, if your success is 100% dependent on starting from a certain amount of money, you will likely never achieve success. And that's because, if you're waiting to start until the conditions are perfect, the odds of you actually taking risks and doing the things it takes to succeed, hustling, working hard, or any of the things that people tell you are vital to success, the odds of you kind of taking these things on go down, down, down. You just end up just not doing it. Because it all gets discouraging is one reason, right? And the same as, I talk to authors all the time about, or I talk to will-be authors a lot. I get a lot of people say, I want to write a book, but, they get bogged down by the number of words it would take to finish the book. Writing from 60 to 100,000 words all at once feels intimidating. I could see why. There's only been once in my life where I wrote 60,000 words all at once. It took me like 18 hours. That book is called Evergreen, and it took me months to edit to get it ready to go prime time, but I wrote it in a single day. An accomplishment that I will never repeat. However, the point of being a writer, of being a novelist, or being an author who pens a book, is not to sit down and write the whole thing at one time. That's crazy. It's possible, but it's crazy. There's something to be said for taking your time with a work and spreading it out, and paying attention to quality, paying attention to the work itself, the craft itself. There's something about that. There's a strength in that. There's a bonus to it, because when you're done, it's a greater accomplishment. This mentality of, writing a book quickly, I think it's working against us now. In my experience, I said recently in a podcast interview that the rapid release model is losing some of its effectiveness because of AI. With AI, there are people who are putting out like 1,000 books a day. I said at the time that my experience is that my readers are out actively looking for human written work. They don't want to deal with AI written work. I got immediate pushback. There is a crowd of people out there who are adamant that AI books are the future, and I'm a dinosaur for thinking otherwise. And readers don't care about that. I did say this was my experience. My readers deeply care about that. They don't want AI written books. They want books written by people like me. And they want to be able to relate to and interact with the person who wrote that book. That's an important aspect of that. So it's I don't know. Well, the phrase I used in New Orleans was that if you look there's a lot of noise right now in publishing and in other fields too, but publishing specifically, there's a lot of noise. If you look just like that noise, you're going to disappear in that noise. You're just going to become the noise. So you can't count on, I don't know, you what you have to count on, what you have to rely on is your authenticity. I heard someone say not too long ago, recently. So like we went through these transitions. We used to be, at one point we entered into like the industrial age, and then we entered into like the information age, and then where data became the commodity, and then it was the attention commodity or the attention, era. Where your attention was the commodity that people sought out. That was the thing people were trading on. Social media posts and YouTube videos and podcasts and all that stuff. We're all competing for your attention. So that's what we traded in. But the commodity now, a shift has happened into what I call the artisan age, a very human connected era where we're looking for authentic relationships and connecting with actual human beings. So the commodity becomes your experience, your perspective. That's a much different animal than trading on attention, because attention is finite, but perspective is infinite. So that's why I think we're entering into a pretty cool new age, really. And that's basically, so that's what I'm doing with this show, for example. Like my perspective is what I'm sharing here. It's what I'm doing on Substack. I share my perspective every week in my newsletter. And I'm building an audience around people who are seeking out that perspective, or new perspective. Not specifically my perspective. They're just seeking out any perspective that they can relate to. We've got this, there's this thing happening where technology that was built to connect us better than we've ever connected before in the history of humanity is ironically ripping us apart. Social media is the best example of that. Here is a technology that literally is created to connect us worldwide to each other, and to give us instant access to the ideas, thoughts, opinions, facts, anything someone wants to share. It's instantly there on demand all the time. And somehow all that connection, all that connectivity has driven us further and further apart. Hey, it's Kevin Tumlinson here, and I want to talk to you about something that's made a real difference in my work over the years, and that is Pro Writing Aid. I've been using this for years. It's hands down the best assistive editing tool that I've found. And what I love most is that it works wherever I write. So whether I'm in Scrivener, Microsoft Word, Substack, or anywhere else, Pro Writing Aid is right there with me. And unlike other tools, I get control over the kind of suggestions it gives me. So there's no rigid rules. It's just smart, actionable feedback that's tailored to my writing. And the best part is that the team behind Pro Writing Aid actually cares about independent writers and creators. They're focused on helping individual creators like you and me, not just big enterprise customers. And that is unfortunately becoming a kind of rare thing these days. And that's why I'm proud to support them. So if you're serious about leveling up your writing wherever or however you write, go to prowritingaid.com and use the code KEVIN20 at checkout for 20% off of your subscription. That's prowritingaid.com, code KEVIN20. And trust me, you'll be glad you did. Look at just the politics of the world right now. And it's not just in the United States. I'm seeing this worldwide. The global stage. People are so disconnected now. And there's just such a division. And if you don't agree with me, then you're not only do I think you're wrong, but I think you're evil. And so there's this headbutting that happens. It's alarming. But I think I'm not the only one feeling this. I know that I'm not. As I look, even on social media and elsewhere. So you've got platforms that are now sort of, segmented themselves to where it's just an echo chamber for one perspective or another. But you're starting to see more and more people who are transitioning toward the middle. And maybe they're going from one platform to another, or maybe they're trying to kind of, share this on a given left-leaning or right-leaning platform. But I'm seeing this evolution of the middle kind of growing bigger and stronger. I think that was inevitable. I personally think that, like in the 80s and 90s, we saw everything trended much more toward the middle, in my opinion. Right-leaning, left-leaning, these weren't even conversations I had. Even as I was coming into adulthood in the 90s, and would have political discussions with, my college friends and my workmates and, people in my family. I always considered myself apolitical until around, I will say the middle of the decade, somewhere between 2000 and 2010, things started to kind of shift a little more, and politics became a little more divisive. And then by 2020, it was really divisive. And then, from 2020 on, it's just been Armageddon out there. But I just can't deal with that anymore. I mean, it added to a pressure on me that caused me to have a bit of a collapse and to get burnt out. And I'm starting to see that more clearly. So I don't align on strict rails on either side of the political spectrum anymore. I'm much more of a centrist now than I was before, and I always considered myself a centrist. So what I'm trying to say is you're all crazy. Anyway, technology has allowed us to kind of be exposed to more of this. And I think what we saw was the first instinct, consequence was that everything went. It's like suddenly everything was spinning, and so everything went to its extremes, out at the edges. And then now we're starting to gain a little strength and control, and we're starting to realize that, okay, things aren't quite black and white. There's nuance, and we're starting to seek out that nuance. And I think AI and other tools are forcing our hand on that, because AI in particular, it's another game-changing tool, another earth-shaking technology that is leading to polarization. But we're able to kind of, in a way, outsource our polarization now because of AI. Which is an odd thing to say, I know, but it's I'm just kind of seeing this. I'm seeing this evolution. I can't quite explain it yet, but I'm getting there. But what it's done for me, and I think it's doing this for millions of other people, including readers, is it's sort of pushed everyone to sort of let go of the extreme stuff and start seeking out more of a rational, centrist perspective on everything. And by that I mean they're seeking out more human relationships, because on social media you are a persona, whether you intend to be or not. No matter how authentic you try to be on social media, there's always going to be some element of being anonymous to a degree. I'm pretty open about who I am. I use my name, I use my photo, everything's above board for me, but there is a slight anonymity in that when I encounter strangers, they don't know jack about me. I do offer a sort of persona. I shape the story about myself. I lean in on brand. That's the thing, actually. I think I've coined this phrase, but it may already be in use elsewhere, so forgive me. But in a conversation with my wife Kara, I said, I think what's happening right now is there's something I'm calling brand fatigue, because we're inundated with brand from everywhere. It's all kind of a callback to that sort of attention economy. Okay, so when you're dealing with a business, it's no longer just a business. It's no longer a transactional relationship. It's a brand, which means that they want you to have a relationship with them where you learn to trust them instinctively, so that when they release a product, you just buy it. And I've always been big on that. I've always supported the brands I like. But the problem is, there's a phenomenon that happens where if you give someone something once, they're grateful. And if you give it to them twice, they may still be grateful. But if you give them 3 times, they may start to expect it. Then that's where trouble starts. Brands are like that. Brands are like that. They've come to expect our attention and demand it, and so they stop offering as high a quality service as they did before. The thing that attracted me personally to a brand before, I want a brand that aligns with my perspective and goals, but I also want quality in what I'm experiencing. And they're shifting away from that, but it's all about getting as much attention from you as possible. So that may be some rambling. My example of this really is Disney. To me, Disney is just flopping all over the place like a trout dying on a riverbank. I mean, they are the stuff they're producing isn't good. The recent, and this is opinion, and only my opinion, but a lot of people share this opinion, but it's still just my opinion, and so you may disagree with this, but the recent release of the Snow White live action film. So I'm not going to see it. So maybe that's a bit unfair to judge it, but the things I have seen are what make me not want to see it. So, forget the politics involved, because I know there's some stuff there, but just looking at like the CG and the CG dwarfs, and the fact that they were originally weren't going to be CG, but were instead going to be 7 magical people, that made me cringe to the point of wanting to vomit anyway. But then there's a sort of outrage right now from the dwarf community because they're like, there are literal, like, there's people, dwarves, little people, whatever they want to call themselves, they're there and can play those roles. There's not a ton of roles in Hollywood for people of that stature. And so to deny them this iconic role is a little offensive to them. I can understand where they're coming from. But anyway, so there's little things like that. But the clips I've seen are cringy. There's like a whole dance scene at the end of the movie where everyone was wearing white. I mean, I don't know. It's just not appealing to me. So it's not attracting me. But the things I have seen from Disney, including a lot of the beloved franchises that I grew up with and stuff that I was always excited about, they've taken the Star Wars franchise and just wrecked it, in my opinion. Like everything I see, I've watched practically everything. I've just stopped. I mean, after a while, you can only go back so many times before you're just fed up with the abuse. I've walked away because they're clearly, and they've made a point of saying that they're not making this stuff for me. So fine, you don't get to have my dollars then. That's how I vote. And they've been doing similar things with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just not good. So, and I don't mean to rip on Disney here. It's just the best example I've found of this brand fatigue thing. Disney used to be a brand that I trusted absolutely. I would watch any movie. I would, go to the parks. I would buy the merchandise. I supported the brand because I believed in the brand. I believed in the message of the brand. I believed that they were for me, that they cared about me. The whole experience of Disney World was something I always genuinely loved because I felt like I could go there and I was cared for as if I were someone who mattered. And now when I go, I feel like just another number. The magic of that experience is gone for me. And the argument that that I'm a grown man and it's not made for me, fair enough, if that's the way you want to see it. But it seemed to me like Disney was always about providing that magical experience for the kid in all of us. That was the whole point. And, I am an adult and I'm a responsible person and I'm a professional. But every now and then I like to just have fun and enjoy things without messages being crammed down my throat and without being treated like cattle. So that experience is dead to me now too. So that's unfortunate. It's sad. And that's what I mean. There's a kind of brand fatigue that's growing in the world where products and services we used to be able to rely on, or products and services that emerge and that we might like and interact with, there's a sort of take. Brand has become this thing used to suck as much life out of the customer, the reader, the participant as they can get. It's like vampires. They're just feeding on it. So even though I am a brand, like I've built myself, represented myself as a brand, I want to be aware of this and I want to do something better than that. I want to be better. And so the shift for me has been from the attention economy to the perspective economy. So that's what I've been trying to offer with this show, with my books, with everything I do. I still sort of act on the premise of being the brand, in that what I promote is Kevin Tumlinson, J. Kevin Tumlinson, Wordslinger, voice of publishing, face of author anchor, general good guy, whatever. That is the persona that I'm building and that I'm trying to promote. But backing that persona, I want 100% to be an authentic version of me, an experience and a perspective that my reader, that my customer, that my listener, my viewer can come to and gain from, rather than simply constantly handing over their attention or their money or whatever. There needs to be more of a human two-way relationship happening between what we've traditionally called brands or what we now call influencers or, celebrity or whatever. There should be a relationship, a reciprocal relationship between those two ideas of audience and creator. Should be. Is that possible in all respects at all times? Absolutely it's not. But if you make it sort of your 80-20 goal, that 80% of my time is going to be spent, 80% of my energy and effort is going to be spent on creating things that, answer a need, even if that need is just providing some joy and entertainment, which is what I'm here for. That's what I'm trying to do. And now things like this show and the other podcasts I do, like a Writers Inc. podcast and Author Nation and all that other stuff. There's a sort of ancillary or maybe ulterior purpose, which is to provide resources, knowledge, wisdom, perspective from the industry, perspective from subject matter experts, things like that. So, there's that. So I'm providing a service. I believe the next evolution of business, the next evolution of industry is going to be service and perspective. You're offering perspective as a commodity. You're offering service as the product. Whatever it is you're creating, it serves the person consuming it, buying it, using it. If you make shoes, you're providing the service of high quality shoes. If you make, if you build laptop computers and other devices, phones and that sort of thing, you're providing the service of high quality technology built around the needs and perspectives of the user. Those who refuse to do that, who build for profit first and people far, far, far down the line, I predict that they will slowly degrade and fail. That's what I predict. I think that you're going to see the rise of the perspective economy, the artisan age, the human relationship economy. And those who adapt to that will succeed, and those who refuse will become extinct. That's my prediction, and you can hold me to it. If it doesn't turn out to be true, then I've wasted everything in my life. So, anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I think this was a good talk, but you let me know. I really appreciate that you're here. I'm glad we get to have these chats. Make sure we've got sponsors for this show. This episode's sponsored by Pro Writing Aid. I just had a chat with Chris Banks. I think yesterday, maybe a couple of days. I think yesterday. Wonderful guy. He's working on something I'm helping him with. Pro Writing Aid is a tool I use literally every day. So I do highly recommend that. I also recommend that you go and check out authoranchor.com. Actually, if you go to authoranchor.com/promo, that will, if you sign up for the discovery call, if you decide you're going to get a VA through that service, you can get $50 off your first month with that. And that's just a way to say thank you there. So I'm loving working with a VA. I'm thinking about bringing on more VAs in the future to take on certain tasks. Like, I want to do some Kickstarters. I want to get somebody who's an expert in Kickstarter. I want to set up a Shopify store. Since there's no contract, I can just bring someone on for like a month and then do that. So anyway, that's my shameless plugs at the end. I do make money from the Author Anchor thing when you sign up. I don't really make any money from Pro Writing Aid. I just like those guys. They did pay for an ad on the podcast, but I think at this point I've actually run all the ads I was obligated to run. That's what you get from Kevin, man. Once you're in the inside with me, I look out for you. If I trust your brand, I'm going to represent that brand. Like I still represent Draft to Digital and haven't worked there going on 2 years now. I still promote them all the time. So if I believe in your brand, I'm an advocate for as long as your brand is upstanding and serving the community. So keep that in mind. So anyway, going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment where you can. YouTube especially, that's very helpful. Make sure you tell other people about the show, because there's things I'm doing here. I think this is beneficial for the creative community and entrepreneurs in general. So I'm happy to do it. Whether or not I have paid sponsors or not, I've been doing this for years. So I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Not by choice anyway. But take care of yourselves out there. Remember to serve. Remember to share your perspective, because the world needs it. My great love to you. God bless. And I'll see you next time.
Wordslinger.